Well, I think that when it comes to Shamima Begum, I've always felt that there's this grand victim framing exercise where things such as her age is used as a defense for her joining Islamic State. And I do hear that her legal team will be fighting the government's decision to revoke her UK citizenship on the grounds that they'll be suggesting that she is a victim of human trafficking. But much of this doesn't really change much for me, in that she did exercise a great deal of individual initiative when it comes to joining Islamic State. And before this grand PR exercise where we've seen Union flag cushions and Western style clothing, Shamima Begum participated in interviews where she didn't show much remorse. In fact, that she attempted to justify the atrocities committed by Islamic State, which we shouldn't forget is a genocidal terrorist organization. So I think all in all, when it comes to victim framing, I'm more concentrated on the various groups which have been persecuted and have faced rampant forms of violence at the hands of the ISIS barbarism.
People see in this, and I think I'm one of those people who see in this, a determination to play down Islamism as an ideology, as a coherent and for some people compelling ideology, as a belief system, a political value system. And any excuse will do to get people off the hook. They were too young, they were brainwashed, they were groomed, they were trafficked. And actually it just removes agency from people. Some people are persuaded by the power and the force of Islamism's argument, and we ought to take them seriously, in my view.
Absolutely, and I'd make the point that Islamic State was proscribed by the UK Home Office as a terrorist organisation back in June 2014. Many people who use Shamima Begum's age as a defence, she was 15 at the time when she embarked on that journey to join ISIS in foreign territory. I'd make this point that the age of criminal responsibility in England and Wales is actually 10 years of age. So she was comfortably above that. And I think that by using her age as a defence, I think it's very disrespectful towards British Muslim girls up and down the country who simply want to do the best they can for their family. They want to be contributory members of their society, and that they would reject extremist advances at the earliest opportunity. I actually think it's grossly disrespectful towards them if we want to use our age as a defence. And some individuals who do want to use Shamima Begum's age as a defence are the same people who would, for example, support the voting age being lowered to 16, which is only a smidgen higher than the age she was when she joined. And they may even suggest that we should take our environmental cues from Greta Thunberg, which they've been saying for years.
I've been saying for years, actually, when it comes to Shamima Begum, that, I mean, I don't give a toss about what happens to her. I mean, you know, she's made some bad choices and, in a sense, she's another country's problem now. However, in the real world, I've made the case, others have made the case, that actually she could become a poster girl for those who go into schools and talk to young people and say, look, this is the journey. You get brainwashed, you have a terrible time, you nearly die, you have years of hell. And then you have you realise the error of your ways, and you come back into the fold. The problem with that analysis, and it seems quite attractive, is that you have to believe the sincerity of their conversion. And as you say, it feels staged. The Union Jack cushions, all the rest of it. It just feels like you're being played.
Absolutely. And I think the reality of the matter is I think much of the British public feel they've been played a great deal when it comes to Islamist terrorism. Colin, I'd make the point that we've had individuals who have, they've offered the view that they have been rehabilitated, that they have detached themselves from hardened ideologies. And once they've been released from prison, they've carried out further acts of Islamist terrorism. We have seen people who have been that they've been released from prison shortly afterwards, committing violent acts of Islamist terrorism. Usman Khan, for example, comes to mind. Unbelievably, he killed 2 people in an act of Islamist terrorism at a prisoner rehabilitation conference. So I do feel that while some people may argue Shamima Begum could be used as this poster girl, this anti-Islamist poster girl, ultimately helping the UK government in certain communities in terms of reducing the appeal of Islamist extremism and talking about how terrible Islamic State is. I just think that there's not really a public appetite for that, and there's a fundamental trust deficit, you could say, when it comes to taking that kind or entertaining that kind of approach.